Like this video to support. Join our YouTube family now and never miss out on epic content, entertainment, and surprises. Hit that subscribe button. Let's start. Spoiler alert.
The film begins with stuntman Colt Seavers discussing how essential people in his industry have been throughout cinema and television history. Colt takes a lot of knocks as a stuntman, but it's worth it since he loves camera operator Jody Marino, who aspires to be a director. Colt's latest assignment involves executing stunts for big Hollywood actor Tom Ryder. Colt straps himself to a harness to film a scenario in which he takes a tremendous fall, but something goes wrong, and Colt strikes the ground, seriously injuring his back. He moves away from the business and Jody. 18 months later, Colt works as a valet driver and has not spoken to Jody since the incident. Colt is noticed by a former coworker who refers to him as the fall guy after what happened, so he returns his car forcefully and does donuts in front of it. Gail Meyer, a producer who usually collaborates with Ryder, eventually contacts Colt. She offers Colt the opportunity to be Ryder's stunt double in a new sci-fi epic called Metal Storm, but Colt declines until Gail informs him that Jody is directing the picture. Colt arrives on set and reunites with his friend, stunt coordinator Dan Tucker, who informs him that his first major stunt back is a Canon roll, which makes Colt nervous since he believes he will mess it up in front of Jody. The group proceeds with the Canon roll act, sending Colt's automobile sliding across a beach before he sticks his thumb out to signal that he is fine. When Jody discovers Colt is the stuntman, she is not delighted to see him after such a long time apart, contradicting Gail's previous claim to Colt that Jody deliberately requested him. For his next stunt, he is lit on fire and thrown against a wall. Colt and Jody then attempt to examine the scene while unsubtly debating their relationship in front of the crew, with the majority looking to be on Jody's side. Gail pays a visit to Colt in his trailer and informs him that Ryder has gone missing after getting into bed with some shady folks, and she assigns Colt the responsibility of finding him in order to preserve Jody's film production within the next 48 hours. Colt then returns to his car and reminisces about his time with Jody while listening to Taylor Swift and tears before Jody arrives, and he has to remain calm. She gets into the car with him and expresses how important the film is to her, and he swears not to wreck the production for her. Colt goes to Ryder's place to find him, but is attacked by Iggy Starr, Ryder's girlfriend and the primary actress in Metal Storm. After a bit of crashing around, Colt discovers that Iggy is wielding a pretend sword and tries to explain that he is hunting for Ryder for the film's sake. Iggy tells him to go to a nightclub that Ryder frequents and look for his drug dealer. Colt enters the club by dressing flashily and meets the drug dealer, Dune. When Colt pleads for Ryder, Dune offers him a drugged drink and instructs his men to deal with him. Colt begins tripping, but manages to beat up 3 guys before chasing Dune outside as he attempts to grab a cab. Colt jumps in front of the cab and prevents Dune from fleeing. He informs Colt that he was hired to drug him and takes him to a motel to meet someone named Kevin and get a fruit platter. Colt also has hallucinations about a unicorn. At the hotel, Colt meets Jody, who tells him that the studio is interfering with her film's love story. Colt then meets the concierge, Kevin, Ben Gerard, who hands him a fruit platter containing the key to Ryder's hotel room. After several fruitless attempts using the door key, Colt knocks down the door to enter the room. Jody calls him and chats to him about some film ideas while joking around. Colt discovers the body of another stuntman, Henry Herrera. Colt phones Gail, who tells him not to speak with the police, but he does anyway when an officer approaches him because he is illegally parked. When Colt recalls the body in the tub of ice, they return to Ryder's room to discover the tub empty. Colt still receives a ticket. On the next day of shooting, Dan says that Jody was motivated by whatever she spoke with Colt since she had bigger and more elaborate plans for the project. Colt stands in for Ryder so that deepfake technology can be used to add Ryder's visage to the finished video. Jody later invites Colt to karaoke, and he accepts. On his way to karaoke, Colt meets Tom's assistant, Alma Martin, and a trained dog named Jean-Claude, with whom he had previously worked. When he asks Alma about Ryder, she says she last saw him and Henry at a wild party before Gail called her away. Alma got her hands on Ryder's phone because his head of security, Dressler, Ben Knight, kept bugging her about it. She understands there is something illegal on there and is eager to turn it in, but she tells Colt she wants producer credit for Metal Storm. He says he'll see what he can do right before they're both tasked by Dressler, and then he takes Alma in his truck. Colt apprehends Jean-Claude and steals a truck to pursue them, while Jody waits for him at the karaoke club, dissatisfied that he is not present. Jody goes on to perform Against All Odds, Take a Look at Me Now, while Colt fights the bad guys after he and the dog make it aboard their van. Jean-Claude bites the goons in the balls before heading up front to assist Alma in disposing of the driver goon. They manage to stop the car, and Colt falls through the glass, but he is unharmed. He then hurries with the dog to the karaoke bar, only to find Dan there, who informs him that Jody has long since left. Colt and Dan deliver Ryder's phone to fellow crew member Venti to hack into, but she requires his password. The lads travel to Ryder's place and search through his extensive collection of post-it note reminders until they locate the password written in plain sight. After Venti unlocks the phone, Colt and Dan discover a video showing Ryder, Iggy, and some of his friends with Henry, who makes a joke about Ryder not performing his own stunts. Ryder is seen attempting a trick, but accidentally knocks Henry over and kills him. Moments later, Venti phones Dan to inform him that the press is reporting Henry's death and naming Colt as the main suspect. Dressler and his men soon arrive and begin fire on Colt and Dan, who respond promptly. Dressler eventually shoots and destroys Ryder's phone, taking it out of Colt's hands. They battle off more guys, and Colt makes it outside and dives onto Ryder's boat, breaking through the roof. He then finds himself face to face with Ryder before being knocked unconscious. Colt awakens to find himself tied up and Ryder wanting his phone back. He admits to killing Henry and making Colt the fall guy for the crime, as well as telling him that the entire cover-up was Gail's idea after he went wailing to her. Ryder also acknowledges that he orchestrated Colt's accident because he thought Colt was taking his thunder. This occurs just as Gail prepares to meet with Jody to inform him that Colt is the suspect in Henry's murder. After Colt reveals that Dressler destroyed the phone, Ryder has his men douse him with kerosene in an attempt to set him on fire, but he gets some in his mouth and spits it at Dressler when he attempts. Colt gets on a boat and attempts to escape while steering backwards. He tries to call Jody, but Gail gets her phone wet before Jody can answer. Colt eventually reaches Jody and attempts to explain himself, but the criminals pursue him, causing his boat to crash and explode, allowing him to jump to safety. Colt is assumed dead and portrayed as a suicide, while the villains employ deepfake technology to place Colt's face on Ryder's body in the video depicting Ryder killing Henry. Colt contacts Dan and requests assistance in slipping back onto set disguised as an extraterrestrial from the film. Jody beats him up because he is confused, until he reveals himself. Before Colt can explain himself, Jody kisses him, but the moment is broken by Gail outside. Jody conceals Colt and overhears Gail discussing Colt's presumed death, while also attempting to recreate Jody's big car jump stunt for the film in VFX and working on Ryder's dramatic closing monologue. After Gail leaves, Colt and Jody devise a strategy to persuade Ryder to confess to the murder by forcing him to do the car jump himself because he will be wearing a microphone and usually forgets he is being filmed, thus he is always seen or heard saying whatever he wants unfiltered. The crew prepares for the big sequence and shoots Ryder's monologue. Jody coaxes Ryder into the car by claiming she needs a close-up of him. Colt reveals himself and begins to drive away, forcing Dressler and his goons to pursue him. Jody and Dan assist keep the thugs away from Colt long enough for him to convince Ryder to admit to killing Henry and claiming Gail planned the frame-up before Colt performs the dramatic jump across a canyon, knocking Ryder unconscious. Gail then summons a helicopter to come retrieve her and Ryder after stealing his confession video. Colt is hurled toward the helicopter and fights both Gail and Ryder until he reclaims the tape and dives down onto a crash mat placed up by the crew just in time. Colt and Jody celebrate their victory with a kiss. Metal Storm ultimately hits theaters, with Jason Momoa replacing Ryder in the starring role. The picture is a huge success, and Alma is given producer credit. Colt claims that while the film's protagonists received happy endings, he and Jody did as well. The credits highlight the stunts shown in the film. At the end, we see police arrive to capture Ryder and Gail after their helicopter crashed. They are confronted by the lead cops, Lee Majors and Heather Thomas, stars of the original Fall Guy TV show, but Ryder flees onto the set to call for assistance. This fires the pyrotechnics and blows Ryder up, prompting Alma to contact Momoa's agent.
Please make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe to our channel. Check out the other videos if you watched this video all the way through. Cheers.